and I might be the first one to ever have this thought, but I don't think we're getting another good MMO for a while.
Probably true.
Other games that come out, they follow a very similar life cycle. A big mountain slope. You start out at the top, everyone's talking about the game, and it kind of just slopes down and loses its player base over time. I mean, it's a typical life cycle for a game, very natural. MMORPGs, on the other hand, follow a very different looking life cycle. They come in all shapes and sizes. They might start out with a bang, they might start out at the bottom and work their way up. But basically, the way you know if an MMO is good and it had any sort of success, long term, over the span of many years, it kind of looks like a real fucked up EKG. Like it's the game's pulse or something. Never healthy or stable, but it's there, which is what counts. It's been quite a while since we've seen a real banger of an
I do have to say, for one, I agree with everything you said so far. I do think that like it may be a while before we get the next big MMO. Because if you look at the ones that are currently at the top, they've been around pretty much since almost the beginning. Besides like Final Fantasy, obviously that's like the youngest one out of like the top ones, and then like Destiny 2 if you count that. But I love how he edits himself into RuneScape. I think that's so freaking cool, and maybe one day in my videos I'll be able to do something cool like this too.
MMO. It kind of feels like the MMO industry has always just been this game of king of the hill, and the ones at the top have ascended so high that there's really no catching up to them. It's really hard to imagine them being dethroned, and there's not going to
by the normal standard. These are all super old.
Be many that try, because not only is developing a massive multiplayer online role-playing game one of the hardest things you can do as a video game developer, but it's also probably the dumbest thing you can do. We can't go into something like that until I tell you about something that someone's going to pay me to tell you about. So, 2023 was full of health issues for me, which led to a lot of involuntary weight loss. It wasn't fun. So this year I've made it a priority to make sure that I'm getting everything I need for both mental and physical health. And AG1 is helping me do just that. It's got 75 different vitamins and minerals that supports body, brain, and gut health. Very important things to keep healthy. And one thing I love about it combats visible signs of aging, which is incredibly important for me as Jagex continues to release quest after quest, making it impossible to end my series. AG1 can also help boost focus and mental clarity, and I've always struggled with sustaining energy throughout the day, and after a while of taking AG1, I noticed that I was not clawing and scratching for caffeine throughout the day. I just put water into the little bottle here. I do 8 ounces of water because it actually tastes good. I don't need to water it down at all. I shake it up a bunch, like get my cardio in for the day, and I drink it. It's a very easy process. As someone who's trying to be super mindful of nutrition and recovery,
a lot of this like health stuff, I don't mean that I'm digging into his ad now, but like you never know with this stuff. If anyone knows, like if you ever tried it, let me know down below. But like I always worry that these are gonna taste like plants or dirt or something like that.
I highly recommend giving AG1 a try. You can try it for yourself by clicking the link in the description, and you can get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D3 plus K2 and 5 AG1 travel packs with your first purchase. Big thank you to AG1 for sponsoring today's video.
I mean, look at me.
The thing that got me thinking about this the most came from a situation that's been kind of brewing up over the last 3 years. In June 2021, Riot Games put a post up on their website calling for any game developers that are wanting to enter the world of MMORPGs with them. And this was amazing news because it's pretty common knowledge at this point that Riot Games tends to not miss. The things they've been making,
that and their
pretty
lore.
Good. The MMO community.
Their lore is insane too. Like they have all the lore, they have everything they need. I just think that they were probably started making it, and then they're like, well, all these other games have tried to come out, and they've tried to continue the same formula of what everyone else was doing before, and they may be waiting to. They could possibly be waiting until they know what exactly they want the game to be, and for it to have some kind of new system or something like that that's gonna be revolutionary for MMO. Or they could have just sat back and been like, you know what? This is expensive as fuck. We're already doing okay. We don't need to bankrupt ourselves from this game and take huge losses when we're making bank right now. So it could be either one of those two things personally.
Was welcoming them with open arms. If you've kept up with the MMO world in the last 3-4 years, you know that the community is kind of still waiting for that game to come along that's just going to change everything. There was no real official news released for the next 2 years. The only set-in-stone thing we got was that Greg Street, who was the producer of the project, was leaving the company. Pretty soon after, he announced that he was launching his own company, making his own MMO. It was just very disappointing because he was extremely involved in the community.
That is kind of interesting and weird, though, how this whole thing kind of, you know, happened here. Especially if he's going to make his own MMO. And then, so that makes me think that maybe Riot didn't want to give him the money that he thought he needed for it, or I don't know. I don't know a lot about like this whole situation, so I can't really say too much on it, but it is interesting that he would leave an MMO to go work on his own version. So maybe they just weren't seeing eye and eye on what like he thought that it could be, and they just didn't want to give him the money for it or something like that. I don't know.
And just had a lot of indicators that he really cared about this and was going to do his best to make it an actual game-changing, enjoyable MMO. Obviously, hope for the best.
Like, that could be possible. I mean, he could have been like, I want to do something new, groundbreaking, and Riot could have been like, let's just stick to what we know worked before. You know, one of those type of things where he's like, I want to try something new that's going to actually maybe work, might not work. And they're like, yeah, we're going to be safe here. And if you don't want to do the safe option, we're not going to go through with it. That could be possibly what happened.
Best. But now about a year later, there's whispers and rumors that this Riot MMO might not even be happening, which honestly would be the least surprising thing I've heard in the last 3 hours. At least. Riot Games has set a huge bar for themselves, which has raised everybody's expectations for everything they ever make. I can't tell you in confidence whether or not this game's happening or not. What I can tell you without a doubt is that it has been a bumpy ride behind the scenes. And if you'd like to see what Riot is most likely fearing, if you look up New World's player count history and see how that unfolded, you can see just how risky.
New World was pretty fun. The problem is, though, I feel like with a lot of these games is that they focus too much on the graphics, and there wasn't enough to do endgame wise. And then also the biggest thing I think that screws MMOs over and is now even screwing over like World of Warcraft and stuff is that you cannot just transfer your character to another server like freely, like in RuneScape. Like RuneScape does it the best. I don't know. Maybe it's because RuneScape's so low demand, that's why they can do it that way. And like, but there's no reason that you shouldn't be able to just have world servers, and then you could just go like anytime, any minute, any second. You just switch your world, and your character is just bound to your account and not bound to a world. Like, I think that's the hugest thing that a lot of people don't like about other MMOs. I know that's personally one of the things I think is stupid, but yeah, I think like RuneScape does it the best. I feel like RuneScape does so much the best though, where you have like the ability to switch worlds at will any given time. So if someone's in your area and you want to like find a world where no one's doing that activity that you're trying to do currently, and they're not stealing your resources or whatever, or your monsters or whatever mobs you're fighting, like that is so helpful for that aspect of it. But like I get it, and then also it could make it to where you have specific worlds that you can go to when you want to do like the big world events and stuff like that, just like RuneScape has, where it has like, you know, certain things have their own world. Well, pretty much everything has their own specific world for it, and then if you want to do group content of that thing, then you go to that world.
Risky it is to release an MMO in the modern era of gaming. I've got around 760 hours played on New World and was a part of the community during the rise and fall of it. And I also saw how quickly that new and refreshing ideas can completely drain the life out of a player base if done incorrectly. New World's game design caught up with itself. Not really sure how long that game's gonna be up for. Probably some of the most fun I've had gaming during its peak. And I really wish things were handled differently, so that it wasn't in the condition it's in now. It was a good game with
I
some
enjoyed
crucial
New
things
World.
wrong with it.
I
Ended
thought
up
it was
being the
fun.
reason for its
It's just that
downfall.
it
An
just
MMO
died
can only
so
handle
quick.
so many mistakes, to the point where even a company that gets their funds from Amazon themselves
And
can't
I
really do
love-
anything for you
see, the
anymore.
thing
So
too
there's been
that-
some sprinkles
I'm
of...
gonna pause it. The one thing too that I really liked about New World was that it was a one-time fee, which also probably was their downfall. I mean, if you have Amazon backing you though, that's like unlimited money, I guess technically, but they probably don't give that to, you know, the developers and the team and everything. So, like, having that one-time fee was awesome for the player, but then they weren't making any more money to put into new content. With like, you know, RuneScape, WoW, Final Fantasy, you know, iRacing, even where they have subscriptions to, and then they use that money to hopefully put into the game and make it better.
MMO here and there. A lot of underwhelming Kickstarter projects, some that are in a permanent early access phase, ones that
Sorry about the
scam hundreds of thousands of dollars
hopefully
somehow. But in the
with my
last
new
like
place,
5
'cause I'm in
years,
the
I
middle
think
of
New World
I'll have
and
better
Lost Ark
lighting for it.
are the only two MMOs that can claim they've had any kind of success. I've never played Lost Ark before. I tried looking up some stuff to get some more insight about it, but just like any MMO you try to get information on, it's players that have...
My thing with Lost Ark is I actually enjoyed Lost Ark a lot up until the point where you literally hit a paywall. And that's the thing too with a lot of these games that are like this, like where it's free to play and then it's pay to win, is that sometimes the games are really, really good, but then you hit this paywall and it becomes so tedious where you're constantly grinding to where it's like, okay, like I don't want to play anymore because I don't want to spend the money for no reason because I don't know how long this game's even gonna be relevant anyway. To where it's like you have a solid game, but then you also have this like pay to win aspect on top of it. Same with there's many games like this. I could give examples, but I can't think right now. Not gonna lie, been drinking a couple beers. But so my point there though is that like whatever, I'll just keep going. You probably
hundreds
get what
or
I'm saying.
thousands of hours just complaining about things, not giving any real insight to the casual experience of the game. What I can tell you is that it's nowhere near competing with the top dogs of the MMO world. So between Riot's situation and New World's fumble, it got me thinking, why is this so hard? What is going on?
Takes a lot of money.
Making an MMO has to be the most irresponsible, stupidest idea
Yep.
you could ever go through with. In the last
Sure
10
is.
years, there have been 20 MMOs notable enough to make the Wikipedia page, and 12 of those are still up and running. Obviously, there's been more than 20 MMOs released, but I'm just not counting the ones that Josh Strife Hayes finds buried in
I
the
love
deepest
Josh
depths of the
Strife.
deep
He's
web
so good.
that peaked at 23 concurrent
He's
players.
another one of my favorite.
They don't really
content
count right
creators.
now. It's definitely a dark age. Now, I would say when World of Warcraft went live in 2004, that is when the true golden age started. Some may say that when Ultima Online came out, it kind of changed the game. I don't really think an MMO golden age existed without WoW. It doesn't feel right to me. WoW did for MMOs what Fortnite did to Battle Royales. Because you may have noticed once Fortnite saw
I will
success,
say, I hope one day I have the money to be able to make videos like this because I don't have the money at the moment to be able to pay for Adobe and all that stuff. Like back in the day, like I have experience with like Sony Vegas and a little bit with Adobe Premiere, but like I hope that I can make videos like this for you guys one day. I think it'd be so fun to make a video essay and like have all this stuff edited into it, and like it'd be so fucking cool. But like right now, I just cannot afford it, so I'm stuck with these reaction type videos. Because if I try to do a video like this, it's gonna be really boring because I don't really have a way to edit things properly.
in its little side game mode of Battle Royale that wasn't even what they wanted their players to try, caused about 55 to 100 others to emerge. Once WoW showcased that you can build a long-term player base with as much success as it had, with as much money as it generated, not only with its initial launch in 2004, but with its expansions in 2007 and on, I mean, how do you not convince investors to let you try and build another WoW. So once this golden age started, much like the Battle Royale boom, we also got a few really, really good games to emerge alongside WoW. They're still here, people playing them. We also got
man, dude.
an overwhelming...
Guild Wars, I never played the original Guild Wars. I did play Guild Wars 2 a lot. I actually do I like Guild Wars 2 way more than WoW. Lord of the Rings Online, I never played that. I did play Conan. I thought Conan was pretty fun. I didn't play this version of Dungeons and Dragons, but I did play a lot of Neverwinter. And I actually liked Neverwinter again, but they had the same thing where you got to that paid wall eventually. And then Wizards 101, I actually liked Wizards 101 as a kid, but I just didn't have money. I had money for RuneScape membership, but I didn't have money for Wizard 101's membership. So I just played up until you pretty much hit the paywall. But I was enjoying it before that.
Overwhelming amount of stinkers, some real stinkers that are not around anymore. MMOs were peaking in the mid-2000s. It was the thing to do.
It's crazy to think that Wizard 101 is still pretty big today.
Style of game that players wanted to play. Even the projects that saw short-term success but didn't really survive, some still to this day have community-backed projects, private servers, to keep the community alive. Yeah. All these MMO games...
Dude, there's huge private server communities. There's even a private server community for that dodgeball game that EA made. It's insane. But I would like to maybe one day go through and do play a bunch of these MMOs that I've never played. If you guys would like to see that, let me know down below. But yeah.
Games meant a lot to people. They proved to be this genre of game that you truly did become a part of. And even though the MMO scene was kind of slowing down in the late 2000s, early 2010s, games like Guild Wars 2 and Star Wars The Old Republic made their entry into the MMO scene and kind of picked up the stragglers that maybe weren't really happy with their games anymore or didn't really scratch the itch they wanted and were still able to give a lot of players their home base of a game. 2013 unknowingly became the grand finale of MMOs. It was the year of revival because in February we got old school RuneScape and in August we got Final Fantasy XIV. Both of them existing for the sake of redemption. RuneScape's main game was at an all-time low. Final Fantasy's first MMO, 3 or 4 years earlier, was a huge flop, so both these companies basically tried again. And now 11 years later, it's safe to say that both of them did something right.
And I've played quite a bit of Final Fantasy XIV too. It's such a good game. But I feel like the story amazing. I still think RuneScape's quest and stuff like that are better. But the music in Final Fantasy, RuneScape has some bangers too. But Final Fantasy's music goes so fucking hard. There's times where I feel like the music helped me in some of the boss fights and dungeons and raid stuff. I feel like the music just puts you in this thing and you just fucking you just lock the fuck in. That music is so good.
Confirmed. Since then, there's been a few notable MMOs that have come out, and they did okay. Elder Scrolls Online, Albion Online, Black Desert Online. These games are online, in case you were wondering. Lost Ark, New World, but none of them really...
Let me go here. What do we got here? Elder Scrolls, couldn't get into it. It was too... I felt like it was too easy, is why I got bored of it. Albion... I played Albion a little bit, but I just kind of it was one of those games where I logged out and then just didn't have that itch to log back in type thing. Black Desert, it was fun up until a certain point, and then it just felt I don't know, I just ran out of cool shit to do, and I was over the graphics and stuff, and because when I first heard about it, they were all like, "Oh, it's like RuneScape, but with good graphics and stuff." But I don't know. I just think it's really clunky. And then New World Lost, I already talked about that.
Made the impact they were probably hoping for. It's almost as if all players interested in MMOs have kind of found their place and stayed there. It really is kind of finding your home base, and that's just where you retreat back to at the end of the day. We're all kind of safe and cozy in our MMOs right now, kind of
Like
making the most of
meant,
it.
like,
But even though
their,
the
like,
kings are up there on that
house
hill,
stuff and all that
it
stuff.
doesn't mean they're resting up there comfortably. The wrong mistake could send them tumbling down at any moment. Those profitable, successful games up there, they got up there with blood, sweat, and dev tears. A lot of mostly dev tears. We now have insight to another reason of why creating an MMO is a really dumb idea. Money.
Which World of Warcraft is having a really strong...
Microtransactions have played a significant role in keeping these games alive. They've got to pay a staff to maintain and update and create for the game so that they keep their players there. They've got to pay for these massive servers. I don't even know how much those things cost. And also making sure that they meet the quota so that the very top executive owner of the company gets the salary that they've written for themselves.
Question, is Jagex milking their players?
Well, yeah, it's quite a big question.
And whatever they need to do to get there is what they gotta do. Subscriptions by themselves cannot sustain an MMO. It could pay for WoW in 2007 when everybody was paying a $15 a month subscription.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, like, RuneScape 3 probably is paying for old school RuneScape, for a lot of it.
On top of buying a $40 expansion every other year. But even that caught up. They have a shit ton of microtransactions, and obviously that's more of a problem for the MMOs that make it big and they have all of these expenses. But any game that sees this big success is going to eventually run into this problem of how do we afford to keep this going.
Although the difference I do have to say though is that World of Warcraft never raised their subscription price where RuneScape did. So there is that.
Home base. I give Jagex a lot of money every year through subscriptions. I pay for my subscriptions on multiple accounts, as do other people. And Jagex makes millions off of players giving them monthly subscription money. But you may have noticed while we're over here frolicking.
Dude, I remember, speaking of like the subscription thing, I remember back in, was it like 2007, probably I was in 7th grade, using the telephone to pay for RuneScape subscription for membership. And my parents being like, what the hell is this on the phone? But I'd be like, I don't know. And then my mom would get mad at my dad.
Our flowers of polls and community involvement and fun. Our brothers and sisters over at RuneScape 3 cannot say the same.
Is Jagex actually this oblivious? We're in a time where RuneScape, at least according to the majority of the vocal player base, feels like it's being neglected, and as someone who's been covering the news and following the game actively for years now, I also think it's being neglected. How does a company with hundreds of employees and, according to the most recently released financial statements, £137 million in revenue, have the audacity to recolor a 3-year-old outfit and sell it as part of some kind of limited...
The crazy thing is that RuneScape 3 probably would have been more successful, and we wouldn't have had to have had old school RuneScape if they did not force the evolution of combat on people. And then also, like, that got rid of more people, but I think the thing that really fucked with people was the pay to win stuff with Squeal of Fortune and the constant double XP things, which I don't really care about the double XP stuff. It's whatever. It's just a game in the end of the day. But I think that's what really killed RS3 was when they started adding all the like cosmetic stuff and the PV, like all that stuff. Like they're like, this is not RuneScape anymore.
Edition pack.
RuneScape 3 has been contaminated.
And a lot of people will even say like 2007 was actually, which is what old school RuneScape is based on. That's even too far back because a lot of people really wanted like 2009, 2010, like 11 RuneScape, where they just wanted to go back to that, where it was like pretty much where you had your, well, I think at that time we had Dungeoneering and maybe Invention. I think those were both out before Evolution of Combat, and people had no problems with those. They liked that. They liked the graphical style of like that era and everything. But yeah, I think that like that's where people still loved the game was in that era. I mean, summoning, some people like, some people didn't like. I think that one was, and then Dungeoneering, a lot of people didn't like at first, but then they grew to like it, and now it's dead again. I believe in RuneScape 3, but yeah.
With regularly updated, toxic cash-grabbing microtransactions. It's experiencing increments of worse. Players just begging the devs to please stop, as if the devs have any control over it. RuneScape 3 is the soldier spreading its arms, protecting us from projectiles, while we sleep soundly, telling the devs that we're not fond of this idea they think they're having. But what I'm trying to say is that even old school RuneScape, as one of the most populated MMORPGs in modern gaming, only exists because RuneScape 3 offers microtransactions. Because what you've spent on old school RuneScape membership subscriptions in the last 6 years, 10 people spent that same amount yesterday on RuneScape 3 keys. Those are the players that Jagex needs, not you, not me. MMOs are expensive to make, and they're expensive to maintain. Which, by the way, whoever over at Amazon Games thought that a one-time purchase of a $40 game was going to be enough to sustain a huge MMO.
Great for the consumer.
What are you doing?
Bad for the company.
What did you think was going to happen? And then who decided that microtransactions were going to be your next alternative? And this is what you have in the store.
Yeah, that is not pretty.
They practically begged to not make money. What's fucking cracking, baby?
Let's go, hype. Freaking ad.
Yeah.
The biggest problem that new MMOs are going to face are getting a true player base. Not the players that are there on day one, seeing how long they can wait in a queue. Not even the ones that invest 200 hours and experience a little bit of endgame. I'm talking about the true player base.
That's the other thing too, is like the queue stuff. Like I understand, like they're not prepared for a certain amount of players, because the thing is that like you should have an open beta, so you know how many people are gonna, like, however many people are in the open beta, like double or triple that for opening day, because there's a lot of people that don't play betas, so that's never a real way to gauge how many people are gonna actually play your game. And then when people see that you can't even get into the game, and then if it is buggy and messy and all that stuff, then that's already put a sour taste in their mouth, and then they're not gonna come back and try again.
A player base that if your game shuts down, they will be on the front lines doing whatever they can to create their own version.
With Wizard 101, where I think you get to a certain point and then you have to, like, you can no longer play. It's like a trial thing. It's not like old school RuneScape where you can play forever free to play. It's like just a trial. You get to a certain point and it's like you have to pay money now.
Version of your game, some sort of backup code.
Oh my god, Club Penguin. Sorry I keep pausing it, but like this is so nostalgia, man.
To keep the community alive. Those are the players that you're looking for. They're there because they love the game. They're there for real. And those are going to be extremely difficult to get, because chances are they already have that game. They're already a part of that community. And most of them aren't going to be feeling that way about multiple MMOs. At this point, new MMOs have to pull their player base from other MMOs. You're going to be
like, this is kind of true, because it's like, especially coming from RuneScape, where, like, in my opinion, it's like the greatest game, not just MMO ever made. Going into like World of Warcraft, when I play World of Warcraft, no hate to anyone that likes or love, or put a lot of hours into World of Warcraft, but like I feel like World of Warcraft is a dumbed down version of RuneScape, and it's just inferior in every way possible. Like, not even joking. Like I cannot get into WoW. I never could, even back in the day, like 2006, 2007. Just always thought it was a boring game. I never understood how it got so big, and I never will, but it did somehow. And, I just always thought it was boring. That's just my opinion on WoW. I never thought it was a good game.
trying to pull players from WoW and from Final Fantasy.
And that's fine. That's my opinion also. Like, people have opinions on things. Like, I understand, like, there's a reason why so many people connected with it, but I just couldn't do it. I don't know why. And Final Fantasy, great
and from
game, especially
RuneScape,
for
and
Wii.
Guild Wars 2. The players that already know what they like and dislike about massive multiplayer online games. Which means that, by default, a new MMO is immediately competing with the top of that hill. Could you imagine trying to enter that space and these are the guys you're standing next to, trying to gain their players? Good luck. The best kind of player base to get for a brand new MMO is a new MMO player. Ones that haven't experienced the other ones yet, and you're going to be their first experience, which would mean trying to appeal to the iPad babies, the TikTok brains, the fucking Fortnite Warzoners. You know, the ones that can't even hold their attention to short form content unless there is a video below the main content that has some car surfing on ramps so that their weird brains allow them to stay there. Dude, drop a 14-year-old into vanilla WoW
I won't
North.
lie, that happens to me a lot too. You know, like you know those videos where like people are doing commentary and there's just like Minecraft or Call of Duty like parkour or something while they're talking, and the whole time like I'm just focused on like the parkour stuff that's going on in the background, and I'm 30 years old and it still like engages me for some reason. But I can still comprehend what they're saying even though I'm just like watching and it's just like a loop of like them just running in a circle pretty much. I don't know. It is there's something there.
Shire and see how long it takes for their brains to start freaking out because there's not enough colors and numbers. The generation following us is not gonna really be interested in this slower paced MMO style that we fell in love with. Why would they run around Elwyn Forest or go kill goblins in Lumbridge when in that same time frame they could have had 3 adrenaline-pumping Warzone games to feel dopamine from. They don't chase the same numbers going up that we do. It makes me wonder if the generation following us...
But at the same time, I find like Call of Duty to be kind of boring too, because it's like, it just feels, it's too fast-paced. Like, not because I'm too like slow to play it, but like, I just don't feel realistic to me, to where like, I'd rather play like Counter-Strike, where it's slower paced, a little bit more realistic. I mean, it's still a game in the end anyway, but like, I don't know. I could never really get into Call of Duty either. I liked Halo more growing up.
When they get to be our age, if they're going to be more interested in goal-oriented things like long-term MMO goals, I don't see new generations coming into MMOs, and I don't see current MMO players jumping to a new one when they've already established their community and love for one that they've been a part of for years.
Rise up against an empire in Final Fantasy XIV Stormblood, now included in the free.
I think the current games that we have in the MMO space are going to remain there, at least for as long as both the players and the devs have that desire. In order for an MMO to take the reins, become the next big thing, to really be the game changer, it's going to have to be very outside the box. Never done before, a big risk. Chances are the next MMO to really overtake these or even see equal success as these hasn't even been thought of yet. But I just have this strange feeling that the next MMO that comes out that has 6 classes to choose from, a woodcutting skill, and 2004 ass fetch quests is not going to be the one to see themselves at the top of that hill with those. It's just a hunch. I don't know. This Ashes of Creation game I've seen talked about for like the last 3 years.
This is a game I'm very interested in, is Ashes of Creation. I think this game could be the next big thing, but I've seen some things that I'm like, that's a little bit of the same.
Is supposedly going to be the MMO that changes everything. They had this dev blog come out at the end of March, and I was like, okay, you know, this looks cool. And on the side of the screen, I see some quests about killing 20 goblins. And I'm like, no fucking way that this is the revolutionary thing. The next big MMO is not going to have kill 20 goblins as a fucking quest, I promise. They've already lost in my eyes.
This is the thing too that I could never get into with WoW, is that this is Slayer. This is stupid. It's Slayer. Like in RuneScape. Like in my opinion, what you need if you really want to do like the action combat and the good graphics, whatever, you need to have at least RuneScape's quest type, where it's like every quest is a real adventure and tie in together event like throughout the whole thing, and then also have like the skills in RuneScape where you can do like fishing, whatever.
There's no way.
Sorry, didn't mean to resume. Like the skills in RuneScape where it's like everything's its own thing, and then like have whatever amount of experience or how high level you want to go with it. And then also, I think that with RuneScape too, that they should pull from there is with the What was I saying? When I unpause it, I forgot. Maybe if it comes back to me, I'll let you know.
What? There's just no way another one of those is gonna be the one to be up there. No. There's a few things that I believe the next big MMO needs to do differently. I think the number one priority is to come up with a structure that eliminates the locust swarm effect. Finish this as fast as possible. Get to max level as fast as possible. Get to the end game, the best in slot, the min-maxing.
Yeah, that's another thing. That's not what I was thinking of, but what he's saying is completely true. Like RuneScape does a lot of things the best, and this is why so many people and even new people are coming into RuneScape now. Is that basically with RuneScape you have this thing where no content is outdated, unlike with WoW, where like pretty much WoW is just get to the end game and then that's it. That's the whole game. The whole game is just the end game, and you're just doing dungeon and raids over and over again. Like that's fucking stupid and boring. Like who cares about that? That's why they don't get new players very often. Where RuneScape, every single thing you do in the game is important, and it'll always be important, and it'll never be like not needed, pretty much.
Fast as possible. It's a real shitty habit that we've developed with video games, especially MMOs recently.
I mean, there are some things, like there's some content in RuneScape that like you can skip over if you want to, but when it comes to quests and stuff like that, though, they're all like all the quests are important, all the areas are important, and like certain reasons where like certain mobs you may never fight a certain mob in RuneScape.
I think it's played such a big role in the overall downfall of MMOs, why everything feels underwhelming now. Unfortunately, I think as long as a game structure exists that allows for that kind of mentality, it's not going to find the success that it would have found back when we weren't playing games like that, in the golden age of MMOs, when things were actually enjoyed. That's why we want to play games solo now. It's why you can get from level 1 to 70 playing by yourself in WoW. And that's not going to make for a successful MMO. You might as well just make a single player game. Other MMOs would benefit a lot by trying a more RuneScape style quest system where it feels almost like a mission with a lot of benefits afterwards, rather than just the same generic copy pasted coding of a quest of going and getting 10 mushrooms on a tree and bringing it back for XP. It's the reason why a game like RuneScape, which people have always poked fun at its graphics, feels more alive than a game with Unreal Engine 5. It's the way it feels when you're a part of that world. And I think a lot of MMOs kind of look the other way when it comes to structuring things like that. They're too scared to try something else for progression. I don't know, they just play it too safe. The world has to feel alive, and everyone's end goal can't be the same. I'm not a game dev, I'm just a consumer. I complain. My role here is to complain. I'm not the guy. If I knew what this next MMO looked like, I would be trying to make it. I promise you I would. I don't think any current game devs have really wrapped their head around what it takes to bring an MMO to the next level, but I think with a lot of emerging game engines and technology we're capable of now, we're eventually going to see that thing that really makes our eyes widen and our mouth.
Oh, maybe that was the other thing I was saying, like the open servers would be awesome. And then like with the skills, you know how like in WoW you only have a couple skills. I think that's so stupid. So like having that being able to be a thing is so important. Oh, that was what I was thinking. And not being so like classes. I think classes are so stupid in MMOs, and like this may be a super hot take. I don't care. But like I think being able to switch from like melee to magic to range, you know, I think is so much better and so much more superior that the way that RuneScape does that. That was the other thing I was thinking about, where it's like you're not tied down to a certain role. You can be any role you want at any time as long as you have the gear.
Mouths salivate. It's gonna happen. Could be a year from now, 10 years from now. Our generation of MMO players, probably the only generation of MMO players, are going to be looking for that game, and we'll know it when we see it. But for now, I think we're just going to be cozy in the games that
Yeah.
we play. For a more
And it's
optimistic
absolutely
look, I
fine
think if
if you do
RuneScape has
play,
taught me
like,
anything,
other
other
games, like,
MMOs have really
You know, whatever, like, what's fun for me may not be fun for you, and what's fun for you, it may not be fun for me, and that's perfectly fine. Like, you can play and do whatever you want.
not experimented with
long as you're
shit.
having
They have
fun,
not
that's all that
really
matters.
opened
Their
up the
games in the end.
sandbox of themselves. The fact that World of Warcraft just recently released a hardcore version after it took someone developing an entire plugin to do it just kind of shows how they haven't really tried shit yet. And the fact that they just tried a battle royale is even funnier. They're trying, you know, we'll give it to them. Blizzard's trying. They might be
forgot they
10
did that
years
battle
too
royale
late to the
thing.
battle royale boom we mentioned earlier, but they're trying, and we've got to give them that credit. Blizzard has done everything in their power to self-destruct, and they're still standing. It's incredible. If they're not going down by now, they're never going down, all right? That company's here to stay, which gives me confidence that other MMOs will be here to stay too. So we don't really have anything
We
to
got at
worry
least
about
another
when it
10
comes
years.
to our favorite games, our cozy home
even
base
20
being gone. And I think a
before
lot of
they're gone.
MMOs need to take advantage of this world that they've created and the different
Unless they really
capabilities their
fuck up
engines
somehow.
have, and look and see how they can approach things differently, like RuneScape has with hardcore modes, Iron Man modes, and region locks with
So
leagues,
good.
restricted game modes, challenges, people like watching
Yeah,
challenges.
some of the things that the like content creators have like brought into the actual game is insane. Just from people just trying something, the videos get really popular, and then RuneScape's like, all right, we'll add that. You know, that is like so cool how much the community of RuneScape actually influences the game, and RuneScape actually listens to their community and adds this stuff, and it's so cool. Like, if Blizzard did that, maybe their game wouldn't be dying.
Challenges. And I think a lot of the big MMOs nowadays have the ability to implement something like that to keep their current active player bases occupied and entertained for a long time. And all that being said, I truly hope I look like an idiot a week from today when that next big thing is announced. I hope I'm wrong. I really do. I think there's a future for MMOs, and we'll all be here for it. Anyway, I think
There
that's all I
can be.
got. I've been putting together the house video.
You
It's
have
just
to do-
5
you have to
days
do
of
something new,
a lot of
fresh, and-
footage. It's a lot of fun.
do
Don't get me
things that
wrong. I also
work.
have a special project I can't really talk about right now, but I'm working on that beginning of May.
You can't. So here's the thing: is you can't copy WoW, because WoW copies other people.
Other than that, it's been a pleasure. Great seeing you. Take it easy.
Have a good one, Jimmy. Alrighty, anyways, that was that video. If you're still here, you know, please like, share, whatever. I'll leave his stuff down below, like always. And yeah, I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.